Laurie's powers was the ability to locate other descendants of the gods of the North. In this case, she was homing in on their friend Baldwin, who was stuck in the afterlife.
Laurie's right, Fen said. This is no short detour, and we don't know what we'll find along it. Maybe more giants. We should just fight this one.
Do you see how big that thing is? Matt said. It could swallow a troll.
But we fought 3 trolls.
And barely escaped with our lives, Laurie said.
Matt's right. We should try to avoid this guy.
Great. Side with Thorsen again, Fen muttered.
Matt could tell Fen thought he was wimping out. A few days ago, that would have stung enough to make Matt reconsider. But he'd learned a few things since then. Sometimes being a leader meant wimping out of a fight. They weren't playing around here. They could die. Their friend Baldwin had died, and that's why they were trekking through the Underworld to bring him back to the land of the living. Even then, there was no guarantee they could. Fen agreed to the long route. There wasn't much else he could do, being outnumbered, but he kept grumbling that they'd probably run into 2 fire giants now. Finally, Matt had to ask him nicely to pipe down before the giant overheard. Fen didn't like that either. Matt adjusted his shield over his shoulder and led the way along the row of jagged rocks. Sometimes they could walk upright. Sometimes they had to creep along bent over. Now and then they needed to dart between rocks. The closer they got to the Jotun, the worse the smell got. Sulfur. Matt recognized it now from chemistry. Soon, he couldn't just smell the fire, he could hear it crackling, deep in the canyon, and he could feel it. Waves that made sweat roll down his face. The air shimmered with the heat, and he had to keep blinking to focus. Laurie glanced over, but Matt waved for her to keep going. They were alongside the Jotun now, the stink and the heat unbearable. Still, the giant was busy talking to itself apparently, its 2 heads deep in conversation. Matt could hear the voices, crackling and snapping and roaring, the words indecipherable, the sound like fire itself. It doesn't matter what they're saying, they're too busy to notice. One of the heads stopped talking and turned their way, just as Matt was stepping from behind a rock. He stumbled back, arms shooting out to keep the others from doing the same.
One's looking,
he whispered. Behind him, Laurie crept to the other side of the rock to peek out that way. Matt resisted the urge to pull her back. He could barely see from his direction. The angle was wrong. It seemed as if the heads were both turned toward them. One said something to the other, and the giant shrugged. As the heads talked, Laurie snuck back to him.
I think they're trying to figure out what to do, she whispered. If we want to make a run for it, now's the time.
Matt nodded. The heads did seem to be debating their next move. The left one obviously wanted to check out whatever it had seen. The right head wasn't interested. Then the massive left arm grabbed the edge of the canyon as if to pull the giant out. The right head shook and sputtered something, but the left half started pulling itself out of the canyon in a weird, lopsided climb. Finally, the right head gave in, hissing smoke, and the other huge, muscled arm reached up.
Now can we run?
Laurie said. Matt hunched over and ushered them to the next rock and then the next. When the ground shook, Matt thought it was just his amulet quivering. Then Fen swore under his breath, and Matt knew he felt it too. He prairie-dogged up and saw a fire giant, which was, of course, what he knew he'd see, but there was a difference between watching it from a couple 100 feet away and seeing it right there. Okay, maybe not right there, but close enough. More than close enough. It was no more than 20 feet away, so near that Matt could smell fire. When one head spoke to the other, wisps of smoke wafted out. Sparks flew as the other head replied. Matt could see flames inside their mouths. Did they spit fire? That wasn't anything he'd read in the myths, but they were learning not everything was the way it was in the old stories.
A sword? Fen whispered. Seriously, it needs a sword too?
Matt's gaze dropped to the monster's belt. No, it needs 2 swords apparently. Flaming swords.
Of course,
Fen muttered. You still want